It's Justin Lai, the oil guy. Don't be rude, be crude.
Hey, this is Justin Lai, the oil guy. I'm going to show you a quick view of my the outside of the office again. Really peaceful. So when I was in Kansas, a lot of people asked me, "Why am I the oil guy?" And specifically, what they really want to know is why is a guy from California, getting into oil investing, which is a really valid question. And I thought I'd spend a few minutes just giving you a background about myself so that I can, answer questions and clear out any doubts about whether I'm serious about oil or not. So I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, at least by developed country standards. I mean, I still had running water and electricity. But my parents, they came from Hong Kong as immigrants, and they had basically nothing when they got here. And all this happened before I was born. But when I was in elementary school, there were three instances where kids brought guns to school, like live handguns. There was one time there was a sixth grader that brought it. Then there was a fifth grader, and there was even a first grader that brought a gun to school. And obviously, I was really confused at why this would happen. But that doesn't mean this happens at all American schools, and that I live my days in fear. It didn't. This is sort of normal life for me. I didn't know anything else. Anyway, fast forward to high school. I was going home late from school one day. I took the train with my brother and my tall friend. Everyone knew him as the tall friend. But upon getting out of the train, before we were able to walk home, we actually get surrounded by these four tall guys, and they happen to be African American. And essentially, they separate us, and then they rob us. Right? They just take the money out of our wallets, and they gave it back. But I remember there was one guy who had he had a hoodie on, and his hand was in his pocket, and it was shaped like a gun. Right? It's like one of those, like, I don't know if he really had a gun or not, but I wasn't looking forward to finding out. But anyway, my brother had $1 on him. My tall friend had $1, and I had $6. And I remember the guy taking the money out, and when he handed the wallet back, he called me a baller, which is to this day one of the most gangster comments I've ever received. Anyway, my brother tried to resist because he didn't like being robbed, and he was punched in the face. Right? Afterwards, he was full of aggression, and he tried to work out really hard just so he could defend himself. My tall friend, he shrugged it off as just another day in the hood. But me, I didn't have an ounce of anger at all. I was actually quite perplexed at why would four, able-bodied young men choose to commit something that's really risky to their future? Well, why would they commit such a crime just to take money from poor kids? I don't remember what I was wearing that day, but for sure, the three of us did not look like we were the type of people that walked around with money, with a lot of money in our pockets. In fact, the most valuable thing I had on me was in my backpack. It was my Calculus 2 textbook. And those things were worth hundreds of dollars. I bet they still do today. But luckily, they didn't take that. But the point is that I felt that perhaps maybe they didn't have jobs, right? Maybe they didn't have something to give them the source of income that they needed, and they had to like resort to something that was that wasn't really like a something that you could do in the long run, right? And I remember that when my brother got punched, I was worried about him, but I also observed that the person who punched my brother, he was quite frightened himself. He asked his other colleagues for help, and he was really nervous. So I remember that they were actually pretty frightened too. They're doing a crime that can get them in a lot of trouble, right? And the payoff was like $8 for four people. That's nothing. So I came to believe that we should all have equality in opportunity, right? Equality of opportunity, but not of outcome. Those are quite different things. And what does that mean? So the psychologist Abraham Maslow, he theorized that all humans have this hierarchy of needs, right? Basically, before people can strive for greater goals, like doing what they believe in, and uh, living out the true representation of themselves, like doing what they should truly do to fulfill themselves. The basic needs need to be met as well, and those include physiological needs such as food, water, warmth, and there's also security needs such as safety and shelter. Right? Without those two needs being met, people won't be able to strive for greater goals should they desire. And that's one thing that I've always believed in. And and right now with an economy flooded with cash because of really low interest rates, there's a lot of cheap credit going on. One of three things can happen. Number one, we get asset price inflation, meaning the price of stocks and housing goes up. Right. Number two is we get consumer price inflation, which is the cost of food and other consumable goods continue rising. And the third scenario is actually neither happens and the price of everything actually falls while wages increase, which is quite surprising, right? Like, how do in a world full of money, how can you actually have prices going down and people, like actually living better? So it all depends on how the money is spent. If money is spent on stock buybacks or speculation for housing prices, obviously the price of housing is going to go up, right? But if the money is put into productive purposes, if you can get it in the hands of entrepreneurs, people with ideas, or people that can solve problems, that can create more goods and services in the economy, well, prices go down, right? And wages go up. The cost of living actually drops, and there's a way to do that, in a world full of money, right? So, bringing everything back full circle, the reason why I invest in oil and gas is because it's a way to create jobs, but also to increase the supply of energy in the market, which actually lowers the cost of energy, and that lowers the cost of living for all Americans. So, if there's a way to, invest, but also improve the lives of all Americans, maybe families' basic needs can be met that much easier, and maybe youth can feel more secure, so they don't have to bring guns to school, they don't have to do crimes to just to just to survive, right? Essentially, I think investing in oil wells, in oil production, it's a good use of capital. Of course, there's a return on investment as well. I mean, that makes sense, but maybe more importantly is that I think it's good for society. It's good for all Americans, and as an added benefit, we can rely less on foreign imports of oil. We have more energy independence because you'd be quite surprised at nowadays where oil is coming from. And there it is in a nutshell. That's why I'm investing in oil and gas, and that drives a lot of what I'm doing today. So hopefully, I could find some great wells to invest in, find some great partnerships, and really lower the cost of energy for everybody. I think it'll be good. I think money can be spent in a lot worse ways. That's it. Justin Lai, Oil Guy, checking out.